Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Featuring Regular People. Thank you for tuning in again, and likewise, we're always happy to have people come in and listen to what we're doing. Tonight's episode is again one that we're always equally excited for. We've got the person who started and created Nightingale FC, which is a really unique grassroots football club based here in the Midlands. Nick, we're super grateful to have you on, mate, and thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you, mate.
Yeah, thanks very much. Really looking forward to it, boys.
How's things?
Yeah, not too bad. Obviously, like everybody else, it's just adjusting to what we hope is going to be the end of another lockdown, which I'll get onto in a bit, ironically, is the reason why we're still here and why we set up. But yeah, just like everybody else, adapting to going back to work and just trying to keep everyday life as normal as possible, really.
How you feeling? Are you feeling optimistic about it all? Or?
I kind of am now. I think, I'm one of the fortunate people that just last week I had my first jab, and it's like that realisation that, a lot of people are getting back to being able to do some of the things that they want to do. And say with our first fixture that we played last Sunday, it was just that sort of ability to give people the chance to sit down and not have a beer after the game. And it's like, I think it's the first time for like over 12 months we've sat with somebody other than family and just had a chat over a pint. So it's quite nice to just do that more than anything.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've got my second one tomorrow. So fingers crossed, it all comes out positive and it's all good after that. But yeah, we'll jump straight in. I mean, obviously the first thing I want to say, what I want to talk about is, who you are, what you do for both personally and for the club as well.
Yeah, so personal life, so based up in the Midlands, live in Bromsgrove, so about sort of 15 miles outside of Birmingham, grown up in this area all my life. But yeah, my day-to-day job, I'm a teacher, so I'm a head of Key Stage 3 Maths, Catholic middle school. So a lot of the country might not understand what middle school is because there aren't many of them around. But middle school basically caters for 9 to 13-year-olds, so it's quite a nice age group. It's that sort of age where you can mould them a little bit, and it's just before they start really giving the answering back. So it's ideal, and I wouldn't change it for anything, mate. I absolutely love it. But then aside from that, big football fan, like travel all over the country watching Villa, unfortunately. That's another thing that runs through the family, so a long-term sufferer. And then Nightingale's become almost like a second job. That's the way I've described it. It's people, as much as it's something we've wanted to do, the speed at which it's grown, it's become a job.
Yeah, amazing. And I mean, in terms of long-term suffering, mate, I'm a Southampton fan and Khan's an Arsenal fan, so we're very much aware.
So between the three of us, we're all here for a good moment.
My suffering is very much more recent, and me and Luke were just talking about this before you come on. I was like, oh, he's a Villa fan. Great. They ripped us to shreds when we played them. It actually wasn't even close. So
I'm hoping with it. So with the ownership, that's one of the other things I'm quite lucky that I get to do, in that I'm on the fans group committee for the Villa. So we represent the supporters. There's about 12 of us. And write for one of the fanzine websites, so I get to go to meetings with the owners and all the other stuff. And I remember I met them the day that they first arrived at the club, and it was like, well, hopefully this isn't another false dawn. And I think since they've come in, everything's just been on a really rapid upwards curve. So just kind of hoping that we can keep hold of Grealish and then kick on in the summer. And I think I can see us spending big money. So I'm hoping this might be the start of a bit of positivity for a change.
Yeah, you've got a good spine about your team as well. Like, there's a lot of, I reckon more Villa players would get an Arsenal starting lineup than Arsenal players would get in Villa's starting lineup. And it's been a few years since you could probably say that.
100%. Yeah, long time since.
Well, it's good that you've got some good owners, mate, because obviously I'm sure loads of, like, we're going off on a tangent already here, but like with the Arsenal ownership, that's all being talked about at the moment. And I just hope we get Kroenke out, man, because we need someone who cares about the club.
it's been shocking, the response to that. And like, again, being somebody that's, I mean, mainly charity orientated, but anything involving football, I want it to be homegrown and all this sort of stuff. I think that the Super League stuff last week, I actually got called up for a couple of phone calls for our BBC local station that we've got. It's one of the perks of the Nightingale thing. It's suddenly become that you get contacted for all the football stories. But just going off on a rant and phoning me up at 7:30 in the morning for teaching kids in the morning, saying what's your opinion, and just going off on one. I just don't get it. It's just taking football away from the masses, really.
Yeah, I think the game's been going in quite a, like, I've really fallen out of love with football in recent years, and it has coincided with my team being awful, but it is also because, it's just, the game's going, man. VAR, and I don't know what your opinion is on that, but also, like, as soon as PSG paid 200 million for Neymar, it's never been the same.
It's frightening, isn't it? It's also the increased value of an English player that I'll never understand that. The fact that you can buy 3 class players from abroad for 30, 40 million combined. And then there'll be an English player who's up and coming who's already 30, 40 million just because he's an English player. I don't get that.
It's the
You
English
can see why people go abroad.
They did, and I feel like it puts a lot of pressure on the English players as well. Like, they have like half a good season and the media like, oh my God, next best English player. And all of a sudden that player must be like, oh shit, like I've got to deliver.
Yeah, exactly that.
I mean, it was similar to, talking about kind of Midlands players, similar to Jude Bellingham.
Yeah.
You know, he went to, went away and was sold for, what was it, £27 million?
20 million.
Yeah, the age of 16, 17.
Yeah, I mean, fair play to him, but...
I've got to be careful what I say there because the club that he played for, so we'll skim over him. But no, funny enough, he's actually a really local lad to here. We didn't realise until he moved. I knew he was Bromsgrove based, but it was only when my friend actually did a run using Strava, and he noticed that you could compete in different sectors around the area and stuff. And he did a run around the biggest state that we live on. And Jude Bellingham was on the top 10 runners list, and we realised he lives on the next close up from us because, like, where we live, it's quite small houses. You go through like 100 yards down the road, and the next close up, they're like 5, 6 bedroom houses, and he lived down there.
Oh wow!
But he's done really well for himself. So, it's one of those. He's left a secondary club in Birmingham, and now he's doing quite well for himself. So,
I love the use of secondary there was great. But I mean, we'll jump straight in then. So, talk to us a little bit more about Nightingale FC. What it actually is as a club, because it is a lot different to kind of grassroots football. And but yeah, just explain a bit more about that.
Yeah, so I know at the start you said about I was the person that founded the club. I'd like to make sure that I get this on record that this is correct because I sort of got on board within the first couple of weeks. So the actual concept and the idea came about by a guy called Perry Holloway, a lad who went to school with my younger brother who plays for the team. And he won't mind me saying this, we've said this in previous interviews, he's suffered from a lot of mental health things himself. Another lad called Richard Waite, who's been through things himself as well, he helped him come up with the idea of it. And it was just basically an idea. They'll say it themselves. They were sat in the garden having a chat. We got put into that first national lockdown. I still remember sitting here, and it's quite an eerie moment. I kind of feel like in years to come, that night where we sat there and we were all told we were going to be locked indoors sort of thing, it's going to be something that we talk about for years. And off the back of that, they said we need to do something to give back to the NHS. So can we do a charity football team? I know that Rich had done one previously for Mind, the mental health charity, and it was a really successful one-off game. They raised about £4,000 in a one-off event against ex-Villa legends, Wolves, Coventry Blues combined, and they just wanted to come up with something that we could do, but then sort of see if we could prolong it a little bit, play 2 or 3 fixtures and so on. Quite quickly, we realised that there was a whole community that we didn't even know about. So I know you said about grassroots, it is grassroots, but then we sort of realised that there's a whole charity football community. And it's massive, and we didn't realise how big it was. And I kind of feel like the speed at which things have gone these last 12 months, not just for ourselves, but charity football in general, there's a potential for it to be the next big thing in football in terms of outside of the professional game. It's playing football for a cause. So we very quickly got a few people on board. There was myself, and there was another lad who unfortunately was with us for a bit, and then he's moved on to doing his own sort of thing. And we just sort of put the feelers out. So, is there anybody that's interested getting involved in a charity team that's going to be given back to the NHS? We wanted to try and make sure that the team had got NHS involvement in it. So we advertised out for anybody that worked for NHS or supporting companies, and literally turned on Facebook the following day, and we had messages from like all over the UK. It was nuts. Like I've never been like social media savvy. As you can see, those of you that can't actually watch this, if it's going out on audio, the camera's terrible. But literally just put this message out, and I was thinking, if we get 5 or 10 people come back, it'll be a good start. We'll have a kick about. And all of a sudden it was like, bloody hell, we've got like 70, 80 people that we need to trial here, and we need to, and it wasn't all based on ability. It was people that we wanted to know were going to get the idea of what we were building the team for. We very quickly got affiliated with Kick It Out, the racism campaign. With my job in teaching, we're doing something called a virtual curriculum in the school that I work in. So the idea is there's no homework, which on the face of it sounds great, but it's getting the kids to pick options a little bit like they do in high school. The options were that their homework was based very much like a degree concept. So I'm doing about the history of football, business and charity. So straight away I've been teaching the kids about the history of the NHS through football, and what we're doing, and they're being a little bit of a part of what we're building at the moment. And it just exploded from there. I mean, I could go through month by month the sort of stuff that went on. We had company that reached out with a kit to begin with, which again, how expensive it is to sort all of that sort of stuff. Then we got more and more people messaging us saying, can we get you on the radio? Can we talk to you about this? NHS started messaging us. And then we fast forward to now, and we've got, I mean, it's crazy. We've got just short of 4,000 Twitter followers. I think we've got the biggest following of any charity team. And it's not, again, about being competitive. It's just, that's the way it's happened. We had shirt competition, the shirt that you've got on, Luke. We put it in a shirt competition recently. During lockdown, again, been loads of online competitions during lockdown, which has been another big positive. To network, plug the clubs, and tell people what we're doing. We entered it, and there was 128 teams from grassroots charity, not just the UK. There was America, across Europe.
Oh wow!
After the first round, we could see, like, this kit design we've come up with is really popular, and then got through another couple of rounds, and we were getting more and more votes each time, and it ended up we got down to the final 2. And I still remember it, again, another really crazy moment during lockdown. We're on Twitter, we're all getting everybody to vote for the kit. We're actually losing in the final, and then all of a sudden, come downstairs after putting the lad to bed like I did just before this, turn the phone on, and again, it was like 60, 70 notifications, clicked on it, and Tyrone Mings had seen the shirt, saw what we were doing as Villa fans, retweeted it out, and he was saying, look, what these boys are doing is fantastic, get behind them, support them. He's now following us, he sent us a couple of messages and stuff, and it's just been surreal. Harry Redknapp messaged us. I had a text from him through his agent. I think his agent used to, I don't know, actually no, best not say you're Southampton. I was going to say he was at Portsmouth. It was the old, I think it was the old Portsmouth chairman, I want to say. But it's
so Redknapp, yeah. I mean, so when I grew up, I used to play on the Isle of Wight for a team called Newport, which is like the kind of, well, only proper place on the Isle of Wight, really. And they used to play, the adult teams used to play a charity match against Portsmouth every year. So one year, I mean, it was years and years ago, but it was like Harry Redknapp came. So we got to meet all the players, and he's a really nice guy. Really cracking bloke.
When he messaged, he came across like that, because you never know how to sort of deal with someone like that. And yeah, he messaged. We had Scott Mills from Radio 1. He sent us a DM on Twitter saying, keep up all the good work and everything else. We haven't unfortunately managed to get him to have a bit of a chat with us on the radio yet. But we've had other people. We've had people from media that have started contacting us recently from like the Mirror, guy who's on Talk Sport. Can't think what his name is off the top of my head, but it's just the potential for it. After what we've done in 12 months without being able to kick a ball until Sunday just gone, I kind of feel like if we can get that growth in 12 months, now we've got the capacity to start filming the games. We've been really lucky with where we're playing and all that sort of stuff. I kind of feel like the sky's the limit. If I really wanted to aim stupidly high and say what a massive sort of pipe dream would be, you see in like sort of #United story and how they've grown. I'd really like there to be a team that represents the NHS or the police or whatever, that can show that you can climb up the ladder. I mean, at the moment, we're not in a league, but I don't see why, if it grows quick enough, in 12 months' time, 2 years' time, we can start looking at something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the kind of growth it has, it's like another team that I've seen online, which is kind of the same, but not really. But it's the Grenfell Athletic Team, or Grenfell FC, yes. Which they've done some really amazing things as well. So it's nice to see, things like this being built up from the kind of bottom of it to go so well, and to get endorsements by people like Tyrone Mings, who again is one of those people who just comes across like a nice, genuine guy.
Yeah, he's worked his way up from the bottom. When you hear his story, he was released from professional game quite early on. Ended up playing non-league for, I think it was Yate Town or someone like that. And when he was playing there, he was a mortgage advisor, and then all of a sudden, someone took a punt on him, and he's worked his way up. And he's still really humble. He does an awful lot for kids in this area and back at the area that he's from. And he literally embodied what we wanted. So not only were we doing the Nightingale thing, but we wanted to, in a time where you've got the Black Lives Matter movement, you've got other things going on, the gender dysmorphia and equality stuff. We wanted to try and come up with a team that not only was for the NHS, but we could use the NHS story as an example of what happens when you pull people together from different backgrounds. So I was talking about this the other day. I think in 2020, January, the last time they did the sort of census of the NHS, there was about 210 different nationalities involved in the NHS. And for me, that's the perfect example at a time like this of standing up, working together, and showing what can be achieved when people come together.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think the thing with it as well, like, you clearly, by the way you just spoke about it, you were not expecting the response you've had. And I think because of like the natural, authentic place it came from, and how your intentions were only ever to do a good thing, you didn't want big endorsements from people. Like, obviously it would have been nice, but you weren't ever expecting anything like that.
Not at all.
So, and I think the fact it's ended up happening anyway just goes to show, like, if you kind of put your heart into something that you think is the right thing to do or something you do care about, other people will recognise that as well. And I think it's a really good thing, man. And like you said about Tyrone Mings, I don't know if you've seen it, but when he was on the High Performance podcast, that's kind of when I got to know his story a bit better. And he's had, like you said, he got dropped out of the game when he was young, and then he had another knockback when he finally got into the Prem with Bournemouth, and then was injured for like pretty much the whole season straight away. And then obviously what he's done at Villa is like incredible, and he's become like a real integral part of that team. And he's, to me, is someone who is starting to become like a real key figure in like just English sport in general. Like, I can see him being one of those people that, like, long after he retires, he'll be involved in doing positive things related to the sport.
Yeah, you'd hope so. I just think he is a really good role model. Like, again, I could talk about the kids I teach, and they're going about who they want to be and who they aspire to be, and it's all footballers like we were when we were kids. Never made it. But when I listen to them, it's sort of the icons that they come up with. It's not giving them any stick. But for me, if I was to label it like the two people that have been the standout during this lockdown from football, it would be Tyrone Mings and Marcus Rashford. You think what Rashford's done is way beyond what you'd expect of anybody, and the amount of time and the hours that he's put in. And he's sort of changed the perception of a lot of people when it comes to professional footballers. But again, kids don't see that. They don't see the graph. They just see the flash side of it. Oh, I want to be like him because he's this sort of person. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with dreaming big. But I think in a year where there's been so much misery, the one thing that I've said all the way through is that I just really hope that people learn from this and make a change going forwards. My worst fear is that we come out of this and people start using the NHS, just at will, sort of taking it for granted, back to the traditional being rude and all that sort of stuff. We've got to look out for one another. It's been a frightening touch and go time, and enough people should have realised that we need to carry that on now.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's something that a lot of people have been worried about, is that, like, in times of like where it is really serious, people can quite easily be compassionate and be like, oh yeah, thank you for everything you're doing. But is it one of them where as soon as we're all vaccinated and everything's back open again, people are going to be being rude to the staff and things and you just have to say you hope that doesn't happen. But yeah, fingers crossed, man. Like, it's what you said though about like what you've managed to achieve without even kicking a ball. So let's talk about like how you're planning to like sort of kick on. Like, what was it like to finally play that first game and things like that?
Oh, it was amazing. I was saying today at work, I've gone in and we've been really lucky with some of the boys that have ended up playing for us. We've got lads that are really good with media and stuff. So the one lad, Rich Mayer, he came on board, really good player. But then on the side from that, he's really good at things like videos and Photoshop and all this stuff. I'm going to sound really old in a minute. I was worried it's going to come the wrong things then. I think like Windows 95. But yeah, he's come on board and just taken it to another level in terms of being able to record the game. So we recorded stuff just for the first time on Sunday, gave it a go. Came out really well, put the clips up. We were very careful because of the social media blackout. But what we did say is we put out a video statement the day when everybody else was closing down, say, look, we follow it. We're going to stick to it as much as we can. But on Sunday, because it is our first game, we've waited 12 months. We are going to put out just very, very basic stuff. So we just literally put a photo up with the squad for the game and then the final score. And that's all we put. We didn't put any words, any comments. And then obviously we put the video highlights up this morning and it's been chaos. I think we've had, last time I looked, which was about 7 o'clock this morning, I think we had something like 728 views of the game just on Twitch. So I think we're just short of 100 followers on there already within a couple of days. But the feeling of just being able to get the boys out there and get them onto the new ground, a lot of them hadn't seen the new ground that we're playing at. So we had the whole walkout experience. We've got the music playing as we walk out the stand, going onto the pitch. Just really, really good day. Raised a lot of money, a lot more than we expected for our first game with no spectators there. And we know there's an awful lot of people that want to come to the games as well. So it's like, if we can raise this, it's that, imagine what's going to happen when we've got future fixtures coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think it's brilliant, mate. And can I just say on the subject of like your like social media presence and stuff, I love what you've done with the profiles of everybody. Like, I really like any organisation that adds an extra layer to who they are, and like just the way you've got like what team everyone supports, a little bit about them, why they want to be involved, like just random little things like their favourite film and stuff like that. Like, I think that just adds another layer to it, and that makes people just almost more interested, because rather than just seeing like, oh yeah, it's a charity football team, they're like, but yeah, but look at all these people that are involved. And yeah, man, it's just like another avenue into getting to know you guys, which I think is something that more organisations should take on, because it's a really important thing. Like, it provides people an opportunity to like resonate with them. And yeah, I just think it's cool, man. Like, your Instagram page was cool. There's a lot going on there.
No, cheers for that. I think it's just something we just want to give out the message of positivity all the way through. And don't get me wrong, we have days where I'm pulling my hair out. You know, you've got 15 phone calls to deal with to do with media. You've got this, you've got that, and it does feel like you're actually working your own. You kind of feel like you've got your own little football club that's like taking off. But it's all been positive stuff, and we just want everybody from the outside looking in to see that we just, you know, we are genuinely a nice group of lads that want to do good. And a lot of people will say, "What are your morals? What are you getting out of it?" We don't get any financial benefit out of this whatsoever, and that's the last thing I'd be interested in. And to be honest with you, a football team around having a 2-year-old and a full-time job and everything else is carnage. But I do it because I know that it can be big and I know that it can make a difference. Having seen how big it's been, again, it's just been that collective effort of driving it on now and making it as big and as good as it can be for the right reasons.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the big question that obviously the fans people will be wanting to hear then. So what was the result of your first game?
Well, yeah, so I have to be careful with this one because, again, with it being charity, we don't tend to go off about the scores and stuff. We're quite respectful, particularly with it being Essex charity. So I'll mention them again a bit later on with some of the ventures we've got with them. But Essex charity are a big part of the reason why we're doing as well as we are. They helped us get off the ground in terms of little phone calls early on. We'd never met them before, just literally ended up on a call like this, chatting about how we can help each other. And it's just grown massively because of them as well. They've been absolute role models in charity. But they were always going to be the first game we wanted to play. Really, really close game. We gave away a penalty in the first 5 minutes, and I was thinking, here we go. This is going to be a gubbing on the first game. Went 1-0 down, got it back to 1-1 just before half time. A really scrappy first half. Gave away another penalty straight after half time. I was thinking, here we go again. You can tell it's charity football. We've given away 2 penalties. Our goalkeeper saved the penalty. We then went 2-1 up, 3-1 up. And then in the last 10 minutes, it went back to 3-3. And I was thinking, good game, but really frustrated that we've been 3-1 up in the first game. I know not many people win their first game when you throw in people together. But then literally about 2 minutes before the end, one of our lads who's a barber by trade, Matt Layton, about 25 yards out, and he's picked out the top corner. So it was quite a nice little ending to the day. And then it was just literally both teams sat outside in the marquee, having a beer together, talking together, going on about when we're going to go back down to play against them. And that's what it should all be about. You know, ultimately, we're all there to raise money. Yeah, there's some dicey tackles that go in like there is in any game. Charity football's probably the worst for it, I would say. But, you know, it's just nice having like-minded people who you've never spoke to before, you've never met, but you've all got that same passion for football. And straight away, we've had people messaging us from that team since over the last 48 hours saying, oh, you know, if you come down here, you can stay at my place, you can do this. And, you know, that's what the charity football market's all about. And that's why we can really push it in a time like this. Yeah,
for sure. I mean, I was thinking as well, there was a couple of highlights that you mentioned there, but what was the kind of feeling like after, you know, you'd finished that first game and you had sat down to, you know, there must have been a moment where you thought, actually, that was amazing. What were the kind of highlights for you?
I think for me, other lads would probably say other stuff. I'll be very honest in that I'm one of these people who naturally, through what I do work-wise and the person I am, I always like seeing other people get the praise. I don't deal very well with praise myself. I don't know why that is. I think it's because our old man who's no longer with us, he was very, very respectful man who always wanted to see other people achieve, and that's all he ever wanted to do. And it was, if he helped somebody and he saw them doing well, that was enough for him, and that's how I've always been. So on the day, I kind of feel like I was that busy making sure that the Essex lads were okay because they travelled up, our boys were okay, the kit man was all right, that's come to help us, the stadium was ready, all this stuff. It felt like I'd probably done that much, so it didn't really sink in until the following day. I came back here and I'm just looking, I was like asleep on the sofa until fell asleep sort of instantly, and then slept through until almost the morning. But it was the following day when I've seen all the messages come through, and I've actually watched the highlights back, and the whole game is available on Twitch as well. That I watched it, I thought we've actually done something really good here. You know, when I looked at the money and we tallied all that up, that was the bit for me. Just the sheer fact that we'd raised £855 in a game where we've got no spectators, we can't do all the raffle type stuff at the ground that we'd like to do, the entry fees, all that sort of stuff. I was thinking if we can do that, it's going to go from there. And that's all we were about. Messages from players that have started playing for us that have never wanted to play for a competitive side. Seeing the confidence that they've got. Our goalkeeper, he's been through some tough times of late, and he actually ended up getting man of the match, which was selected by the opposition. So I kind of feel like that was really fitting.
Yeah, amazing.
everything about it really. It's just the more I think about it now, when I reflect on it, and hopefully next time I can relax a bit more. It was a really successful day.
No, mate, that sounds wicked. And I think outside of the wider, like, why you did it for the NHS and stuff like that, obviously that's amazing. But it sounds like there's been quite a few people in the team who needed this as well. Like, on a smaller level, like, I feel like you've really affected a lot of people in a positive way. And it's like you said about the guy getting the man of the match, and the two guys who initially even thought of the idea had a bit of a rough time themselves. Like, the boost that it must have given them to see something that they've had, like, a little, like you said, chat in a back garden where you're like, oh, maybe we should do something like this, to bang 12 months later and like you've absolutely smashed it. You've got loads of people interested. Like, it just must have been such a positive thing for so many people. And in a time where there's not been a lot of positivity around, like, you really can't understate how important that is. Yeah,
definitely. I think again, the more we reflect on things once they've been done, it gives us a chance to sort of take stock of what we've achieved. I think one of the big exciting things that's coming up is when I look at our fixture list. I mean, this month we literally got this game in quickly because the venue that we've been offered, which is an absolutely stunning ground, and I can go on to those in a bit. The ground itself is phenomenal, but they're actually ripping the pitch up. They ripped it up as soon as we came off the pitch. The tractor was on there tearing it all up to get it ready for next season. The pitch was immaculate. Like, we'd never played on a pitch as good as this, and yet they were saying that they need to tear it up ready for next year. So that was a bit surreal. But we've got one more game later on this month up in Nottingham. That's one thing that we are doing. We are trying to travel around ourselves. Then we're back at Stratford on the 6th of June. But then when we go into the summer, we've got some really exciting fixtures lined up. So we've got the Bradley Lowry Foundation, who came to prominence with Jermaine Defoe, the little lad from Sunderland. He was pictured with him. Jermaine would often make trips up to go and visit him. So we're travelling up to Newcastle on the 3rd of July. And then the following week, which is the one that I'll openly say I'm most excited about, we've managed to get Glasgow Rangers Legends. And that for me is, as somebody who's grown up as a Villa and a Rangers fan, my old man, devout Rangers, never had a chance to go up to Ibrox, but we're going to do that on the Sunday before we fly back down. Just cannot wait. Honestly, it's testament to what we've grown that we've managed to get a fixture like that. I think they only play 2 or 3 games a year against people that are well known. We've not played a game, and they signed us up to play it. And I've looked at some of the names of the people that are involved. I just can't wait. Yeah,
that's amazing. Who's getting involved then? Give us some names.
So far, I mean, I don't know how many people know because it's Scottish League and everybody traditionally slates it. But over the past, they've had the likes of people like Barry Ferguson play for them. They've had Alex Ray, who played for Scotland, played down here for Wolves and numerous other clubs. I think he played at Sunderland for a bit. Marvin Andrews, who was part of the team that won the famous Helicopter Sunday when nobody knew if Celtic or Rangers were going to win the league that weekend. There was a helicopter famously flying around with the trophy doing loops. And Celtic took the lead. Trophy was going that way. Then Rangers would score and it would turn back round. I think it was only about the 87th, 88th minute. There was a goal scored that ended up winning the league for Rangers, and it famously landed on the pitch with the trophy. And he was part of that team. We've got Gregory Vignal. He played as part of that treble-winning team, and I think he played at Blues for a bit. They just keep releasing more names every so often. So, being selfish, knowing the ones that I've played for them, I'd quite like to see people like Michael Moles, who was somebody I grew up with, who was 20-goal a season player. And they are trying. I know that they're trying their best to try and see if they can get one of the current players to come and visit us before we play, which would be a real dream. And for me, it'd have to be either Jermaine Defoe because of the links we've got with Bradley Lowry, or selfishly Alfie Morelos just because of what he's achieved this season. So
yeah, he's a baller. He is a baller. But what Rangers are doing at the moment is crazy. Like even the story they've had, where straight down to the lowest division of Scottish football, and now, they're blowing Celtic out the water. Like, it's crazy.
It's just the resilience. I don't think people realise, as people take the mick out of Scottish football, how big. I'll say Celtic as well. I'll have to say it's my brother. Brother stupidly supports them just to wind us up. But Celtic and Rangers, when people say would they survive in the Prem, I always think you give them 2 or 3 years to bed in with the finance side of stuff, because they're going to be massively behind everybody else. If you gave them the finances and the resources of what some of the clubs in this country have got, they'd comfortably stay up with the fan base alone. They're massively supported clubs. I mean, we've been told this Rangers game, they put the advert out for people who wanted to go to the charity game, and the girl who's been organising it, she's a fantastic girl. She was talking to us the other week, and she said, basically, we can sell out 1,000 tickets in the space of a week when it comes to charity football. And I was like, 1,000 tickets for charity football? And she said, yeah, she'll leave it with me. And like, already there's people queuing up to get tickets, people wanting to get on board with sponsoring it, donating stuff, an evening event. It's just mental, really is. It's something that 12 months ago I would never have thought I'd be sat here talking about this sort of stuff, but that's the way it's been.
No, I mean, that's absolutely huge. And just touching back to what you mentioned earlier about the stadium, your home stadium is Stratford Town.
Right.
So yeah, how did that come about? And what's the joys of playing at a place like that? Because the picture, of the stadium looks incredible.
Yeah, that was probably the hardest part of it all. So we've got these plans of what we wanted to do, but it was finding a home and finding a place that was realistically financially viable. That's one thing that I've been, off the back of what we've been doing, I've been learning an awful lot. And there's a lot of things that I've sort of stood up for. So I sent a letter into the Department of Culture, Media and Sport about the fact that charity football, we have to pay affiliation fees, which we're, fully enough, thinking about it. I've just thought it's May now, so we're going to have to pay them again. But these affiliation fees, you pay them to be a part of an FA. But as a charity football club, you don't really get any benefits from that other than the fact that you're sort of covered by your local FA. But trying to source a ground as a charity side is a nightmare because people will quote you. We've had teams quote us ridiculous figures. Like, I've had teams that have said, oh yeah, we'd love to have you down. And then in the next breath, it's going to cost you like 300 quid for a game. And I'm like, well, the whole point in us playing, I'd rather us go and play on a parks pitch and get people down who are going to have a bucket and put some money in or whatever, just for what it is. It's never been about it being the flashiest ground. But saying that, we got introduced to a guy called Jed McCrory. It turned out that he's the ex-chairman of Swindon Town. He helped them when they were in a bit of financial mess. He was also involved with the Worcester Warriors Rugby Club recently, kept them into the Premier League, massive sponsorship deals and all that sort of stuff. He's taken over Stratford Town and he's practically rebuilt that ground in the space of the year or so he's been there. He's put in a massive educational facility and academy. And he said, yeah, if you want to come down, we can get you down playing on a Sunday. Come and have a word with us. He said, we never say no. And when you think something's too good to be true, and I kept questioning it on the phone, so I don't mean to be rude, but we've had so many knockbacks and people that, without being rude, are a much lower level that just aren't interested. Oh, this seems like it's too good to be true. We went down there. We turned up not knowing that he'd got like the press down there. He'd got other people from media down there. Took us on a tour of the little ground inside. And then he walked us out to where the changing rooms were. And the changing rooms are like some of the best standard changing rooms you can imagine for this level of football. So they're a tier 3 non-league. Before lockdown, I think they were top of the league or second in the league in that division. So we're talking 2 leagues below the conference. Massive plans for the club and the area. And then he walked us down the tunnel and out onto the pitch, and it was just, didn't even realise it had got stands the way it had since he'd been there. It's like playing it's like a mini stadium. They're having a new stand that's being built as well as we speak. So it's just, it is like a little championship manager story, really.
I was going to say, when you were saying before about like it's like having your own football club, all the stuff you have to do, it's like all them years playing football manager have really paid off.
Oh, I said they'd always serve us well. I remember sitting at the back of like university lectures with the laptops out, like signing players you'd never heard of.
It was all about those young prospects on Football Manager, and they grow
Absolutely.
up to be.
It's when you sign like a young prospect on Football Manager, and then 10 years later in real life they're actually a massive player, and you're like, oh my god, I used to have him at Woking.
That was because of me.
Shall I tell you what makes me feel old now, though? I've got kids who I taught who have made it to like academy level, or they've played professionally, or they've played with my younger brother. And it's seeing them on these games now, because I remember I used to watch my brother play every week. He's a very good footballer. Openly admits he's a million times better than I am. But I used to go and watch him every single week, and he played with there's a lad called Callum Riley, who was at Birmingham City for a while. I think he's playing for AFC Wimbledon now, and a couple of others. And it's when I see their names come up on like Football Manager, and I think to myself, bloody hell, I remember when you were 7 years old and we were playing in the Birmingham League, and like I'll be with your dad and stuff like that. And it does make you feel old, but that game is nostalgic. I think I'll ever grow old.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. Like, so obviously I've like played Football Manager, FIFA ever since I was a kid, and it was when I got to that age where I was like, right, so there's like players like Mbappe who are like 4 years younger than me and are like some of the best players in the world. I was like, sick. Like, I've hit that point now where I'm older than really good professional footballers.
So I'm at my peak years. Yeah, that's the frightening bit. It's when I'm at the games now, and it's like I can't vindicate saying the word "go on, son," because like obviously when you're a kid and you say it sounds weird, but now I kind of feel like I am genuinely one of the older people at the ground now. So it's
qualified to
weird.
Say it.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna use it. I'm gonna milk it while I can.
Yeah, 100%, mate. Do it. You've done the right. Exactly. So
really exciting. Sorry, Cam.
To be fair, mine was probably like just a bit of a fun question. Like, what position do you play then? Like, what's your role?
Well, I'm going to be brutally honest with you. At the moment, I'm not playing. It's just I've always been about coaching. Like, I've obsessed with it, like to the point where most of the books that I read, it's all about different coaches and tactics and all that stuff. And it's not that I want to embed that in a charity football team. It's just that's what I've enjoyed doing. Fascinated with the mentality and the psychology behind coaching. So my background within schools, even though I was head of maths, which I mentioned earlier, my degree was sports exercise science. I had a really successful school team at the school that I've just left. I was there for 5 years. I had a team that I carried through for 4 years. And we took them from 6,500 schools when they were in year 6 in the English Schools FA tournament. Got them all the way from the 6,500 schools down to the final 4 at Coventry's ground. And we didn't concede a goal the entire day. And it's still to this day, you can tell it's upset me because I'm talking about it now. We got to the finals day playing against teams from like Liverpool, Manchester, all the hubs of football. We're from Redditch and Worcestershire, like, you know, just outside like the leafy areas and stuff. And we got down to the final 4. We hadn't conceded a goal and we lost on penalties. And I actually cried my eyes out. The kids had to go to the side and I'm sobbing my heart out on the side of the pitch because you've got these kids who are just, you know, it's their whole day and they've got that close to winning something that would be, I mean, it will stay with them the rest of their lives, but it's always that what if. And it was just seeing them upset set me off. But no, at the moment I coach, I'm hoping to sort of just get involved and play the odd bit here and there. But no, it's never been about the playing bit for me, really.
Fair play, mate. A lot of people wouldn't, I don't know what the right word to describe it is, but the fact that you can kind of take that role, whereas a lot of people would be like, want to make it all about them and be like, right, so I'm going to be captain and I'm going to be playing it, like doing that. Like you say, I think that's probably to do with your like career as a teacher as well. Like you want other people to shine and to have the opportunity to sort of put the light on other people is almost as good to you, kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that's partly it. And I think the other thing as well is when I look at how much it's grown and the amount of players we've got, as I found to my detriment at the weekend, I think we named probably a few too many players. We had a squad of 17, trying to roll on, roll off subs, which is what it is with charity football. It's a lot fairer that you know, somebody's tired, they can come off, they can come back on later on, which I much prefer. But it's when you're there with a load of lads who are playing charity, trying to manage who's come off first, who needs to go back on. That was bloody hard job. That was on Sunday. But no, just seeing it grow. And like I said, there's no reason why I won't put my boots on and play 20, 30 minutes here and there. But just seeing people grow, like we said earlier, the NHS lads, we've got on the front of the shirt, as you can see, we've got the Royal Orthopaedic Hospital, their charities on the front of the shirt. That's the other charity that we're raising money for. We've got, I think it's 5 or 6 players that all work there. And they heard what we were doing and they're like, we'll get your kit designed for you. We'll sponsor you. And now we're giving back by making sure some of the money that we raise goes to them. And it was just seeing them at the end of the game in the car park. And it's one moment that's just come into my head. They were just stood there before they all drove off at the end of the day and had a photo taken, which was sent into work. And I was thinking, that's what it's about. You've got guys who are working on, like, you know, anaesthetists. You've got people who are blood transfusion delivery drivers or whatever they're called. People from all over the hospital coming together. We've had another lad who's messaged us this week who's actually related to the kit man who started helping us. And he said he's working at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital in Birmingham. He's just been released by an academy because they've had to disband due to the finances of COVID. And all of a sudden, these lads have got no clubs to play for. And he's saying, well, in the meantime, I want to come out with charity because I'm working for the hospital. And that's what it's all about.
Yeah, I mean, it's that whole coming together, isn't it? Which I think is really important as well. I mean, and that kind of ties into my next question, which is something that I'm really excited for you to talk to us about as well, is the National Affinity Cup. So what is the Cup? What was your role in creating it? And, you know, what's the plans for it?
Yeah, so if running Nightingale wasn't already busy enough and it had sort of taken over my life, again, as I said about Essex earlier, really good friends with a guy called Spencer King, who's like sort of one of their main guys down there. He played the whole game at the weekend. And it's got to the point where, again, didn't know him 12 months ago, been talking to him about charity over the year, like sporadically. Got to about January time and we're ready to launch this. We'd had an idea of trying to come up with a competition for charity teams. Now, obviously, charity games are normally fundraisers, so we wanted to try and keep that like embedded within. But the idea was, we said, well, there's no one that's ever done. There's been like mini tournaments where it's not normally like ex-celebs and people like that involved, but we didn't want that. We wanted it to be for out-and-out charity teams that play week in, week out voluntarily. We said, can we come up with a competition, FA Cup style concept, and see how many people want to get involved in it. And again, if we can get 15 to 20 teams from a couple of different counties or whatever, we'll be really pleased with that. And again, we've managed it incredibly carefully. It's been really detailed. We've gone to the point where every little bit's been thoroughly checked through. And we pressed the button on it in January. And we're now waiting to just show you how quick it's gone. in September it starts. We've got the FA writing the rules and regs for it formally. It's going to be officially recognised. And we've got 64 teams that have entered the first ever National Affinity Cup. So the idea is it's an FA Cup, but when each team's drawn to play one another, they also make that day a fundraising day. So both teams take 50-50 pot of the charity money that's raised. Nothing comes back to us again. The only money we've had, there was a £30 entry fee at the start. That's gone towards, we've got an officials thing that's been set up so referees can be disseminated around the grounds. We've got the venue for the final. So we had Chorley, who had a really good run in the FA Cup, get involved. It's helped with travel for that. We've got sponsors on board all over the place. We've got people offering prizes, the lot. And the teams are from all over the country. Rather than it just being where we thought it would be, we've had to split it into regions for the first round. So you've got a South Coast and London group. You've got a Central group. You've got North Wales and North West. You've got the North East. You've got a Yorkshire group. It's just been carnage. So really looking forward to that kicking off.
It is mad, isn't it? To, you know, when you said I wouldn't have pictured this 12 months ago, it really, it would have been impossible to picture. I mean, 64 teams to enter into a competition, being officially recognised, and to have that kind of response from all over the country. What an achievement.
Yeah, again, it's one of those. It's like you're just kind of eager to get it started, but it's all the little steps to get there. So like we've been learning, as I say, we've been learning all the way through, learning about the importance of the FA do a thing called the scoring system. So we've got to sit in they said keep 3 hours spare, I think was the phrase they said. 3 hours of them reading out the rules, and they literally quiz you on everything. So it's like, well, if a team doesn't turn up to the fixture, what happens? What happens to the charity money? If the game's a draw at full time, what happens? What are you going to do if penalties? What? And it's just been like a complete, like, don't know what to say really. It's just been 100 mile an hour really. But I think now we're seeing the amount of people that are getting engaged in it. We've got the podcast that we do, so we set that up a couple of months ago, and the idea was we wanted to invite different teams, sponsors, and people on board, just come and talk to us about football and their love of football. So a bit like we're doing now. It's not all about the Affinity Cup. We wanted it to be, this is the Affinity Cup. Who's your team? Introduce your charity. Why do you do what you do? What's your backstory? And then a little bit more fun, we'd talk about football in the week. And like reactions to things like the Super League and all the other stuff that's happened recently. And then we finished it off quite nicely with a bit of a quiz. So each week there's a 15-question quiz shootout. Each charity, whoever comes on for that week, has a go at it, and there's a little league table. And one of our sponsors is doing a little trophy for the quiz winner at the end. So it's linking all the people together, the sponsors, the charities themselves, some of the ambassadors that we've got. So we've got Tom White from Sky Sports News. He's endorsed it. Coming on the podcast soon. James Green, who's BT Sport. And that's been surreal as well, talking to him. So James texted me last week, and it was like, you wouldn't think you're talking to somebody who's famous. You know, you get that perception of somebody being a bit sort of edgy. God, not at all. The nicest guy you've ever met. And he just texted me the week, and he was like, I know we had to cancel the podcast, but I've just been called over to Munich for a BT Sports event. He was like, can we do next week? And it's like, you're texting someone that you watch on the TV.
Yeah.
But all people that want to be in it because they've been touched by charity themselves. Tom White, he's involved in a charity team himself, a very successful charity side. They've been around for a long time. But we've just had a massive response from people, everybody saying, you know, this is what charity football's needed. Gives us a really good opportunity to not only raise money, but actually have a little bit of competition, and there be that end goal of having that dream day out with a big cup final and a coach trip up the motorway and stuff. So, yeah, just again, really looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's and I mean, I think that's kind of what football has been. I mean, aside from the controversy with the Super League, football since the start of the pandemic has been a lifeline for a lot of people. And I think what people are starting to realise now, and potentially, you know, with the reaction to things like the Super League, it is about the community and it is about the kind of masses. And yeah, I think this maybe potentially, you know, a big reason is that people are just, you know, trying to get behind something that they can be a part of and they can feel, you know, attached to.
Yeah, definitely. And I think of the crossbred of the charities that we've got. So we've got like ourselves, NHS. You've got cancer charities involved in it. You've got a lot of mental health charities, which what I would say is the mental health charities have grown very quickly in terms of the numbers of them. There's an awful lot of those, which is great to see. But we've even got teams like the team called Truck United, and they're made of transgender players, and it's like showing that we're accepting of everybody, because they're the kind of people that, having spoke to them, people wouldn't even give them the time of day, and it's respecting the fact that you know, there's a place for everybody. Football is something that we all love. It is. We actually had a debate the other week on another podcast that we were on about why is football a religion, and somebody from BBC had listened to that and ended up inviting us on the Sunday to talk about the same topic. And it is, you know, you think of the ritual of football. You've got that team that you follow everywhere. You've got your favourite players. You've got your favourite songs. You've got all this, that, and the other. We're all united by that. So why should people not be allowed to go and play their game because they don't fit a specific demographic? And that's what it's all about for me. It's just getting the masses out there. We haven't got the best team in the world. And on Sunday, we'd thrown together players that have had one training session together, some of them. But we did it because some of them work week in, week out for the NHS. It's their 90 minutes of release to go on the pitch and let some steam off. But seeing the smiles on the faces afterwards when we had the photographs done, it's what it's all about, mate. It's just making everybody happy and doing it for a good cause.
And that's so much of what football has lost. Like, I think a big issue with football now is a bit kind of what we were touching on earlier with the way the game is going. The fans feel really disconnected from their clubs.
Massively.
And this is why you're starting to see protests, and it's like the Super League was just organised and decided without the fans even being told about it or asked about it. And what you've done is clearly people are so interested in it, A, because you're doing it for a really good cause, but also because something they can connect to and really be a part of and feel like needed and wanted. And that's something that obviously the big game of football has really lost. So what you guys are doing is really important, and kind of like Luke said, it's just getting back to what football used to be about.
I think for me, it's now. I've said if we can get this first year right, I can see the potential for it again being really big. I thought there's no reason why I can't see sort of free-to-air channels and people getting involved. You look at Sky Sports do the Trilby Tour, so people will pay to play golf, like with a pro or however it works. I'm not great at my golf, but it's shown on Sky Sports. You've got your everyday people going and playing. And for me, what better than even if it's shown at a silly time on the TV, how good would it be if you've got charity football on TV? You've got that option like they do when they've got Soccer Aid, which I do love Soccer Aid. I love anything like that. It helps, but it's always about like the celebrities for me. I kind of feel like that's what brings it. And I get why they do it. I'm not knocking it. But having regular people who have put their heart and soul into charity. Some of these teams have been charity teams for AFC York is up in Hull. They've been together for God knows how long, but they've got players who are in their 50s who have been part of that charity for a serious amount of time. How amazing would it be if you've got two teams on the TV, a little scroller banner at the bottom? You don't have to donate, but it says on there, you know, if you wish to donate to the charities of either team, here's the Just Giving links or whatever. How good would that be? Like, for me, that would be massive. And I think a lot of people would want to watch stuff like that, because you look at football on Twitter, it's one of the most entertaining things out there. Non-league football trumps top football every day when it comes to the sort of stuff that people post. But what frustrates me is the teams at the top have now got to realise this, because I'm not going to name them on here, but there's been two Premier League sides, two sides that are currently in the Prem, one side in the Championship who saw what we were doing with the Affinity Cup, surely offered us their ground free of charge. And they said, look, you know, we're really big behind it. The only thing that you'll need to cover is the security on the day if there's going to be enough people coming. We had two Premier League sides reach out to us, and they basically said, we'd love to host your final. And the costs, again, when I said earlier about 350 quid, I nearly threw up when I looked at it. I opened the one letter, and I'm not going to say which team it is because one of the people in this chat actually supports them. But £15,000 we were quoted for the day. That's no lie, £15,000. And I sort of looked at what that constituted, and that was like no food or anything else involved. That was just for the hire of the pitch and the use of the screen. If we wanted to use the box for people to overview in the gallery, that was going to be another £2,500 on top. We then had another Premier League side based in London get in touch with us. I think they wanted 9,000, and then a team up here in the Midlands offered 7,500. And it's just like, we've done this off our own back. We've got kids of our own. We've got, you know, we haven't got that sort of money to just go and offlay, you know, £7,000. It'd be great in time, but it just seems immoral to me. Or we're doing it for a charity cause. Surely at the end of a season, when they usually tear the pitch up, there'd be someone who'd be willing to just say, look, you know, come and play your game here. It's great exposure for. Imagine being that club. We're the first team to have a national charity final at our ground. But I just kind of feel that's where there's that massive divide.
Well, that's it. And unfortunately, that isn't enough for these people that run football clubs anymore. I mean, you said you don't want to say the team. I know who it is, because I know the sort of people that run these big clubs now. And it's just like, if there's money to be made, there's money to be made. And at the end of the day, they don't really care about the cause. And I think, I don't know, there's just... for example, the social media blackout thing they're doing at the moment, I think it's a bit of an empty gesture, in my opinion, because after these 4 days, well, they're going to switch it all back on, and all those people are still going to be there. Like, it's not going to actually do anything. But
I think for me, that the only way that it will work, and I said this to people the other day, and again, this was a radio interview, my perception on it all is they said, what did you think of it? And I said, well, a bit like you said, it's an empty gesture. The only time it's ever going to work, and this is, I hate saying this because the whole racism thing's massive, and I do a lot on equality in schools, the lot. The only time it's ever going to work is if it hits the people at the top in the pocket, because it's all about money. And if these teams that have done this Super League had just spent, 25% of the effort that they are putting on that into trying to fight racism, we could get rid of it. This perception of we can't get rid of it. Yeah, you can. You can do it if you want to do it and put the money into it and do the things that would be a good gesture, and everyone would get behind that. They could see their clubs were, doing whatever. But to do this at a time where, there's been all these people who've lost lives, they've lost jobs, livelihoods, finances. Honestly, thinking about taking away your team away, and there's so much racism and divide going on. I really don't get it, and I just feel like the blackout thing, it's going to go back until somebody gets hit financially at the top, and people start to see like sponsors are pulling out, people who want to help the companies that help the clubs want to pull out. No one's going to do anything about it.
Yeah, or like even like points deductions and things like. There's got to be more you can do than just post a fucking picture on Instagram and be like, "Oh, stop the hate" or whatever. I don't know. It just
there was a few big players that came out, and I thought it was quite a nice thing for them to do, as much as it can be. But Patrick Bamford, for example,
about to say about Bamford.
Yeah, after the game, he came out in the interview and just said, "Look, it's if they did put that much effort in, and for a player like him, and other big stars across the Prem as well, to just blatantly say it on telly, I think that's quite a positive move. However, I completely agree with you. Until it becomes a financial issue, it will be a very, very difficult thing to achieve. But I know that I don't want to keep you much longer. So one of the biggest things and the most positive thing to end it on as well is, how can people get behind Nightingale? And how can they support you in times like this when we can't go to the stadiums?
Well, from early on, we wanted a tagline which people would sort of link to and respond to quite well. And we just sort of said, like, if you support the NHS, then you support Nightingale. And that pretty much is it. If you believe in the NHS, or people that work there or have been touched by something that they've done to help them, and we all use them at some point. Like we were saying about the vaccinations before we came on here, like the hours that those people are putting in and the amazing work that's been done to find vaccines so quickly. Everybody at some point in their life, either themselves, their family, their friends, will be using the NHS, and that's what we're all about. So if you do believe in them and you want them to be successful long term and you want to show the support to them, that's what we set up for primarily. But we use football as our vehicle as opposed to other things. Social media is the easy one to get involved in straight away. So on Twitter, it's just Nightingale FC, nice and simple. We're open to anybody DMing at any point. We've had nurses, doctors message us about what we're doing. We've ended up having chats with people who just came on to say well done for what we're doing, but then have wanted to offload. So it's almost been like a bit of an airing point for people who have been stuck in stuff. We've got Just Giving page. So if you just literally go onto Just Giving and type in Just Giving Nightingale FC, you'll find it on there. We are in the process of setting up a second Just Giving page for the Orthopaedic Hospital, which will be going live in the next 24 hours or so, because most of the money we've raised so far is for the NHS Charities Together Fund. But we want to start making that a little bit more 50-50. Instagram, really annoyingly, somebody had got Nightingale FC. We can't track down who it is who's got it. So we've got Nightingale FC 2020. And then on Facebook, if you just search Nightingale FC, it all sort of replicates itself. But it's just trying to spread the message to the masses, really. The really exciting one that we've got now is Twitch, if anybody uses that. So if you go onto twitch.tv/Nightingale FC, all of our games are going to be streamed live on there. We're starting to do some YouTube content, which will be going out soon as well. Interviews with players, people who've got involved, not just the NHS boys, we've got like police, we've got all sorts involved. Stratford themselves, we want to do interviews with nurses, doctors, paramedics. Just literally get it out to as many people as possible, and we never say no to anybody. At the moment, squad wise, we're capped, but we always have a waiting list of people, and we have said that if we travel around, we're forever down where you boys are at any point. we'd love to see you guys there, and we can always get you involved and stuff as well.
We would love to come to the game. I was going to say that earlier when all the Affinity Cup and stuff's going on. We'll definitely try and get down there. And everything you've just mentioned, we will stick in a link below as well, so people can find it really easy and like stuff like that. Because obviously before I didn't know anything about what you guys were doing other than a quick flick through your Instagram and what Luca told me. But amazing what you've done, mate. And you can tell you really care about it as well. That really comes through when you talk. So yeah, mate, it's been really nice having you on, and thank you for coming on, and thank you for giving up your time.
No, cheers, guys. Really appreciate it. And again, it's just another brilliant way for people to be able to just spread the message of what they do. And if there's one positive that's come out of everything the last 12 months, it's been things like this. People meeting up online and talking to people they've never met before, and just spreading the message. So no, thank you so much for it.
No, it's been great. And I mean, I'm only down the road as well, so I'm in King's Heath in Birmingham, so I will be there.
We've got players from around there, so we train not far from you. We're up at Newman Uni on a Friday.
Oh, okay, so, nice.
Not too far at all, but yeah, definitely. I was going to say you're not far from us, so you're more than welcome. Just hoping that Boris says on the 17th that he confirms that we're going to be allowed spectators back. So if that's the case, we're open for it to kick off at the start of next month.
Yeah, perfect. I'll be in touch about how to get some tickets soon. But yeah, mate, absolutely appreciate you coming on, Nick. It's been a great chat. Yeah, as Khan said, we'll post everything in the post, in the YouTube, etc. But yeah, mate, thank you very much.
No, thanks so much. Really enjoyed it.
And thank you everyone for watching as always as well. Yeah, just stay tuned for more in the future. Thanks.